Hello gamer, so here we are again, reunited for the sake of ability draft. On today's journey, we're going to look at one game and analyze it. So hop in for the ride and tighten up, because we're going straight in. Our games start as usual, on the board, at the picking phase. My first thought on the game is that we are mainly against strength heroes. So anything that will help make them less tanky is going to be a good counter to their base hero attribute. As I have an int base which is not tanky at all, I'll choose first to go for DK. This will provide me the necessary HP to be in middle of fights and survive long enough. Let's also mention that Kunkka also took Dispersion, which would have been a great combo together. And since I'll be a tankier with DK, I'll probably also choose something to be more in the middle of the fight. Blade Fury seems like an appropriate skill. That way, once I take someone's strength, I can just run around them to finish them off. Now that I took a skill that needs to be near enemies to deal damage, I might also have to choose something to be able to chase them down. And so Spectral Dagger seems fine to me. I can get forest movement, slow someone down, and possibly juke enemies. This build seems quite balanced and a strong response to tanks and possible nukers. To make it even more synergistic, we can add Pulverize, a channeling skill that will help me get the full damage from Blade Fury. Now, let's look at the enemy team composition. Warlock feels like a strong caster that could snowball with a stun and some nukes. Gyro could get strong, but he will take some time to reach his full potential. He will mainly rely on items with his right-click build. Night Stalker has a great caster build, but his base hero is really bad for casting since he does not have a lot of mana. He will have to get a lot of int items. And Kunkka and Undying, both going tank, are kind of hard countered by me. I can take away all their strength and burn them down. Let's also take a look at our team build. Spectre has nice right click damage and a way to stun enemies. Mirana has something to slow and a good anti-tank skill. Primal Beast has a solid caster build with Tombstone and Golem. Fatal Bonds will also synergize well with our team. Here, I think as Enigma, I have a solid counter to tanks and I can also avoid magical damage while in Blade Fury. And Lion's got Black Hole, which is a solid skill on its own. X will also be of great use. Now that we have an idea of what items will counter each of these builds, let's take a look at some items that will help balance each build. The balance in between items that counter enemies and items that help your build is crucial. So again, identifying the weaknesses of your build and knowing where to get the best investment out of your hard-earned gold to balance your hero will often determine how well you will scale into the game. The game is on. We will quickly get a few items for early game. As a caster, I like to have a magic stick and a little bit of regen. Then we will head for our lane. In this case, I will go top lane as I want my right click heroes to farm as much as they can since they rely a lot on items. And so to join us in our journey comes Primal Beast.
Ride out with me. Ride out and meet them.
For death and glory.
And honestly, I can already see it happening. With both Undying skill being leveled, Primal Beast and I already have a solid combo together. And so we will start to harass whoever is against us. In this case, mostly this poor Kunkka. I'll start by taking away all his strength and wait for Primal Beast to cast Tombstone. Once the combo is out, it's almost a guaranteed kill on one hero. And then, all you need to do is rinse and repeat. you can see, having DK on an intelligence base can be quite nasty. As they normally have a bigger mana pool than Undying, the spammability of the skill gets ridiculous. In this regard, our first big item will be some good old arcane boots, allowing us to spam DK even more. You may also have noticed that I did not put a single point yet into Spectral Dagger. That's because I can rely on Primal Beast for slowing the enemy down and focus on using the early spike damage of both Blade Fury and DK in the early game. Generally speaking, when reaching your third level, putting a second point in one skill instead of trying to have 3 available skills is the best option, because most of the time the damage output or the amplification of the effect applied will be greater from a skill at level 2 compared to having 2 skills at level 1. In this case, I'd rather have 2 skills that I can spam more often. My goal is to reach that 4-second cooldown DK as fast as possible.
Boom, Clara everywhere, fucking diabolical.
And because I want to be in the middle of the fight, I also chose to max Blade Fury over Spectral Dagger. As I'm not the carry of the team, I don't mind dying a few times. Killing their carry and dying at the same time will be more valuable for our team in the long run, as long as our carry is not getting blasted on the other side of the map. As we reach the mid-game, lane position will become less relevant, and helping out our team to get more farm by stacking camps or by helping on kills, even by preventing our carry from dying, will help us maintain our lead in the game. As you can see from the map, both top and mid T1s are down, so the next logical step to keep map control will be to join bottom lane and help in the push, allowing our carry to farm safely his items in lanes and jungle. Regarding our items, the strongest skill I have against the enemy team is without a doubt DK. For this reason, I will prioritize items that will synergize with this skill. And what best item is there for DK other than Aghanim's Scepter? None. The 4 strength steel to 10 strength steel buff the Scepter provide is pretty ridiculous. And depending on when you get your Scepter in the game, it can lead our build to snowball even more. Obviously, we're not going to win every encounter we have, but if we can manage to stall the enemy team while our team escaped to safer grounds, we can say that we did our part of the job.
I can't make it. Go on without me.
I'm trying.
Go on without me faster.
Go! Get out of here, go!
No! God! No! God, please, no! No!
What is life? Why am I here? Why did you know that? I was supposed to try to...
I do have a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. If you let my carry go now, that'll be the end of it. But if you don't, I will look for you. I will find you. And I will kill you.
Now that we have Aghanim's Scepter, things are about to get really nasty fast. Before Aghanim's, each cast would steal 80 HP of their life plus the damage. Now each time it steals 200 HP, that's a 2.5 times amplification.
Something even more fucking diabolical.
And so now on, our duty will be to keep the aggression as constant as possible, and never let the other team farm. Our primary focus to engage in big team fights will be to have Primal Beasts and Lions ultimates ready. as these are the best team skills in the game we're playing right now. The fact that the other team did not think about getting one of these AoE ult in their picking phase is going to cost them a lot. Having one of them in your team is already a game changer for fights, and having two of these against their ghost ship as somewhat of a good AoE skill is really shifting the power towards our team in the picking phase. When Primal or Lion can cast ults, preferably both, we are ready for fights. While these abilities are on cooldown, we should consider farming or getting picks if someone is out of position.
How would you do such a foolish thing?
As the game progresses towards the mid to late game, we will still have to worry even though we have a huge advantage right now. Losing is still not impossible if we don't play well as a team. Either we don't get to connect our crucial ults for fights, or people get picked out of position on our side, which will lead to the enemy team get some huge stacks of money for the comeback. I also fear if the game is taking too long that we end up giving them the game. I mean, I know we have the lead right now, but some skills and some heroes are just really scary in the late game. This would be particularly true for right-click heroes such as Gyrocopter, and tanks also do really well in the late game, especially if one of them has dispersion. Not to forget that some builds will also fall off in the late game and become almost irrelevant. That is the case of my build, as Blade Fury, Pulverize and Spectral Dagger don't really scale well into the late game. The damage output of this ability will become negligible to a well-farmed hero, leaving me to hope that my carries have got the right skills and items to take on the late game. Another thing I want to talk about is not forgetting the crucials of every game, like vision, putting down observer wards and sentries, body blocking creeps for lane advantage, pulling waves in a double stack camp, in short, all standard Dota mechanics. Because yes, we are playing ability draft, yes, we are playing for fun, but this is still also like a normal Dota game. And by that I mean that standard Dota mechanics are still applicable, and too often I see these aspects being overlooked in ability draft as fewer people want to assume the role of support. Even as a carry, buying a few observer wards will turn out to be a good investment and will most likely lead to a kill or denying one to the enemy. Alright, back to the game. Now as for my next item, here are two possible options. I can get a tankier item like Art of Tarrasque or maybe even Magic Resistance to greatly diminish the damage of Warlock, Night Stalker, and Undying. And so, if I don't get a proc of DK on them in fights, I can still tank some damage if I were to be stunned or silenced for a while. Or I could also try to get another output of damage like Blade Mail, so enemies can nuke themselves. I chose to go Art of Tarrasque, but now reconsidering after rewatching the game, I think I should have probably gone for Blade Mail to maximize my output damage, as I was already tanky enough for DK procs, and it is very unlikely with this build to not at least get a few procs in fight. This could have potentially lead to a few more kills in some key fights of the game. Same goes for your teammate. If you see them becoming unbalanced, you may want to give them other ideas of what items to go for. We all make mistakes, me first, and it's always nice to have someone help you reconsider your items or skill choices. As Pulverize was suggested to me by a teammate, it was my first time using this skill and it was really a good call for my build. Alright, let's skip a little bit of the game to go to one of the key fights, a classic in Dota, a Roshan fight. Here's a great showcase of why these AoE ults are game changers. You can see here we warded, but so did the enemy team. As we go in for Roshan, we are aware that Gyro comes to try to ult us down. Even though they want to deny us the Roshan, it's about to backfire on them solid. The reason they should carefully consider this fight is because we have too much AoE control with Black Hole and Chaotic offering. If I was in the enemy team at this moment to engage in a fight, we would need to be able to buy back if the fight was to backfire. But let's be real, the score is 40-21, so I would avoid this fight at all and switch my focus on either getting a pick off like killing Lion, as his ult is not affected by magic immunity, or Turtle in our base for the push, as having high ground and T3 towers can still help withstand the push. Back to our team. At this point of the game, the carries in my team should be pretty farmed and able to tank some damage or escape it, while also dealing a lot of damage. A great way to be able to tank some damage for right-click heroes is having an item that heals you back, based on your output damage, and so Satanic is a great item for any right-click that wants to be in the middle of the fight. As for my build, I'm starting to lose power. I can still weaken the enemy, but my build is mostly strong in the early to mid game. I could still try to get some items to deal damage. A few options come to my mind: Blade Mail or Tegan. There would be some good solo items I could get. On the other hand, Veil of Discord, Pipe of Insight could also be some good team items. So I can either choose to build items that will keep enabling my build, or I could also invest in items that will synergize with my team. In my opinion, the best way to choose which to go for depends on the builds and items the enemy has, and what items your team is going for. If no one built magic resistance or tankiness in your team, Pipe of Insight will be a solid pick for your team. So adapting to what people on both sides of teams are doing in the game will be of importance. As I see it, support builds should end up with some team items. In the endgame, there is a variety of items that could be lifesavers. But since we have so much the upper end right now, and also because my carries are becoming tanky, I chose to go for Blade Mail next. As I see it, my team has multiple Desolators that reduces the upper, so the Blade Mail will synergize with it. I can also negate a lot of magic damage while in Blade Fury, and I also do have a massive amount of HP, which I can try to convert into damage. If we play for our ults, we will win these fights very easy. On the contrary, if we don't get to connect these ultimates, the enemy team could win some fights, and while we do have destroyed 2 sets of rack applying pressure to 2 lanes, game is still not over.
Just do it! Yes, you can!
As the game progresses, being aware of when your overall team spikes is going to help you determine how fast you need to end the game. Our right-click heroes will benefit from a very long game, in contrary to our caster builds that will eventually spike before the right clicks. The best example is our Lion. He relies mostly on one AoE control. His spike is very early in the game. Don't get me wrong, he's still essential to every team fight, but once his black hole is down, he's almost useless. The spike of my hero from early game to mid game, with 3 of my skills naturally scaling in the late game. Primal Beast has somewhat of an exception as a caster. Fatal Bonds will help him scale a little more into the late game, because it is a percentage of damage shared. So as long as he casts it on the enemy team, our carry will synergize with this skill. Otherwise, most of his other skills are good in early to mid game. That will be all for today. I hope you either had fun watching or you learned something about drafting, or both. If you did, please smash that like button as it helps bring this video to more people. Again, thanks for watching. If you have any comments regarding the videos, leave them down below and I'll try to respond in due time. And on that note, see you on the next episode.
Or anyone else will quit. You're not gonna stop there! No! What are you waiting for?